Last time we saw how David Kipping claimed that the universal genetic code is powerful evidence for evolution.
A force paper by Edmund Moody and colleagues published in Nature this summer, they claim to be able to date the age of what is known as Luca, the lowest universal common ancestor. All life on Earth shares a common ancestor, evidenced by our universal genetic codes.
We saw how this is a widespread claim, that this is a religious claim, and that it is contradicted by biology. Now in this video I want to show you two more important concepts regarding the universal genetic code and evolution. Point number one, the genetic code is profoundly complex. So how could it have evolved? This paper conservatively estimated that the chances are 1 in 10 to the 1018. That is a 1 with 1,000 zeros after it. In other words, impossible. Not surprisingly, hypotheses of exactly how the genetic code evolved are lacking. For example, this 2018 paper admits that the origin of the genetic code is a notoriously difficult problem. The paper concludes, to be honest, we are stuck. There is an impasse. Most papers on the origin of the genetic code are reviews like this one, and not original research. It seems that the field has been stalled. In other words, the code is unlikely to evolve, yet it is claimed to be powerful evidence for evolution. Okay, let's spell this out to be crystal clear. The genetic code is unlikely to have evolved, evolutionists are stymied, yet the code is claimed as powerful evidence, and the evidential arguments are religious. This illustrates the power of religion in evolutionary thought. On the one hand, they are saying we can't figure out how the code could have evolved. But on the other hand, they're saying the code is a slam dunk evidence for evolution. The science contradicts the theory. Okay, point number two. Evolutionists must believe that the code is unevolvable. This comes from phylogenetic inference. In other words, the code is universal today. We find it in all the species. So under evolution, the code must be inherited from Luca, the last universal common ancestor, that blue dot. Therefore, the code must not have evolved over the vast evolutionary history. In other words, Luca gave rise to prokaryotes, eukaryotes, multicellularity, fish, amphibians, reptiles, birds, mammals, all those millions of species and their fantastic designs, yet the code must not have changed. It is in all these species the same code. Evolutionists are forced to believe the code is unevolvable because the code is universal. The universality of the code, the very thing they claim makes it powerful evidence for evolution, actually contradicts evolution. Universality means the code must be unevolvable. So let's summarize this just to be crystal clear again. 1, the genetic code is universal today, so under evolution the code was in Luca, the last universal common ancestor, and so the code must not evolve thereafter throughout all of that evolutionary history, for while all the species evolved, the code didn't. In other words, the code is unevolvable. Under evolution, you may tolerate minor variants to have evolved, but you must say the code is otherwise unevolvable. So here's an example from Ridley, quote, "But once it had evolved, it would be strongly maintained." Unevolvable. The code must be unevolvable. But wait, if the code is unevolvable, then what? How did it evolve in the first place? In other words, during all this time, from the initial crude Luca up to today, the code must not evolve. There can be no code evolution over that vast evolutionary history. But before that, the code had to evolve. Remember, there was no code at all when evolution started, so the code had to evolve. Then, mysteriously, at that blue dot, the code could not evolve at all thereafter. The science contradicts the theory. So to summarize these two videos, 1, evolutionists claim the code is powerful evidence. Their arguments are perfectly valid, but their premises are contradicted by science. Now wait, you say, how can the arguments be perfectly valid, but the premises contradicted by science? That doesn't make sense. Yes, an argument is valid if the conclusions necessarily follow from the premises. It says nothing about the premises themselves. In this case, the premises are contradicted by science. they are also religious. Furthermore, the code's complexity stymies evolution, as we have seen. And beyond that, the code must be unevolvable. The universal genetic code is a train wreck for evolution. The insistence that the genetic code is powerful evidence for evolution reveals the religion at work. Religion drives science, and it matters.